Hello humans, welcome back to another React video. Today I am going to be watching the Artemis 2 mission briefing overview that was streamed back in September for the Artemis 2. As of you watching this video, as of the release of this video, it is less than a week until their no earlier than launch date of April 1st. And I'm getting excited. If you don't know, I am going down to Florida specifically just for this, and it will hopefully launch on the 1st, because if it doesn't, I will have to come back to North Carolina for Easter. So I've got family coming in town, and I can't just wait around in Florida hoping that a rocket will eventually launch. So very excited for that. I understand there's a possibility it could get scrubbed, but I want to go into that experience with a more fuller context of what's actually happening than what I already know. So we're going to watch this mission overview, and let's get after it.
Good morning and welcome to our briefing today about NASA's Artemis 2 test flight, set to send 4 astronauts around the moon next year as the first mission under the Artemis program.
Cool.
I'm Rachel Kraft with NASA Communications. We have several key people here today at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston to share more details about the mission.
Oh, okay.
They are...
So Johnson is in Houston. That's good to know, because I encountered that in an earlier video, and I was like, where's Johnston? I don't know where Johnston is. I only know Kennedy. If you don't know, this channel is all about me learning about space. I'm coming into this as a novice. I don't know anything about space before starting this channel, and my preferred method of learning is learning by discovery. I like to discover answers as I come across them versus Googling something and instantly having the knowledge. I find I retain information a lot better when I discover the information versus just looking it up.
Lakeisha Hawkins, Acting Deputy Associate Administrator for NASA's Exploration Systems Development Mission Directorate.
Are they going left to right?
Charlie Blackwell Thompson, Artemis Launch Director. Judd Freeling, Artemis 2 Ascent Flight Director. So. Jeff Radigan, Lead Flight Director for the mission. Rick Henfling, Artemis 2 Entry Flight Director.
All right.
And Dan Flores, NASA Test Director.
Cool.
We'll have some remarks this morning from each of our participants here, and then we'll take questions from reporters both here in the room and on the phone.
So this is the first time I've been watching a NASA live panel, so I'm not really sure what their format, I mean, she just said what their format is, but like how it's going to go. I don't know if I'll stick around for the Q&As. I may do so. I thought this would be more of a presentory kind of thing, but we'll see what these remarks are.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm glad we opened with that video. It gets your heart pumping, and it reminds us of the historic nature of the mission that we are about to embark upon.
Yes, the video. Sorry. I had to skip the video because it was all like music. It was just music playing over like a recap of what they're doing. I think if you clicked on this video, you probably know what they're doing. They're gonna launch, and they're gonna orbit the moon, and they're gonna come back. They're gonna orbit it from one side, and then they're gonna loop around to the other side, orbit it from the other side, and then they're gonna shoot back. They're gonna be out there about 25 days. I have another video on the channel actually talking about the mission, so you can go watch that. But I had to skip the video because it was just no talking. It was all music playing while like they were showing the animation of the whole thing, which again is similar to another video I already have on this channel. The big reason I had to skip it is because NASA has already copyright claimed me on this channel for using, because there was music in a different video that I used that I wasn't supposed to use, I guess. So I just need to avoid copyright claims, because if I get 3, they shut down my channel, and I don't even have 15 videos up yet, and I'm already getting copyright claimed by NASA, so I had to skip the intro video.
We're here today to talk about Artemis 2, and we together have a front row seat to history. We're returning to the moon after over 50 years.
So exciting.
During the Apollo program, the Apollo era, and we are going back to the moon. Now,
it's crazy
this
it took
is
this
a
long.
series of tests, Artemis is. Artemis 1 was a 25-day mission. It was a great success where we demonstrated the capabilities of the SLS rocket, the Orion spacecraft, and all of the supporting operational and ground systems. We were able to test out those capabilities in a real deep space environment. And so now here we are moving on to Artemis 2. Artemis 2 is a 10-day test flight. We will be launching.
I was already wrong. I must have been getting confused with the Artemis 1 being 25-day test. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it looks like the beginning stages all happen quite quickly, as you would imagine. And then they were saying they separate from like the core stage, and they have that whole top module, right, called the ICPS. And they're going to like detach from that, and then they're going to like turn around and do some like testing, like side to side, up and down, forward, backward, just to make sure all their boosters work. And then they'll like deploy the solar panels, and then they'll go out, circle the moon, come back. So pretty simple.
4 crew, our friends, Commander Reed Wiseman, and pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Koch, and Canadian Space Agency and mission specialist Jeremy Hansen.
Yep.
And them, along with our ground teams, we are going to be working together to execute this mission. But let me emphasize that this is a test flight. And so the activities that we do together, we are going to learn from them. And so while Artemis 1 was a great success, there are new systems and new capabilities that we will be demonstrating on Artemis 2, including the life support systems, the display capabilities, software, and et cetera.
Okay.
We'll be taking lessons learned that we learned from Artemis 1 and incorporating that into Artemis 2, and then building upon what we learned from the last mission. This is a stepped approach. And all that we learned from Artemis 2, we will build upon that to prepare us for our first crewed landing on the surface of the moon for Artemis 3.
We should watch an overview of like what all the different Artemises are supposed to do. So like Artemis 1, pure shakedown test. And they were saying in the video that like to have gone off without a hitch was like amazing. Everything went exactly right. And they finished testing things so quickly that they added more parameters to test before they got back. So that's great. That's Artemis 1. Artemis 2 is like, okay, now we're going to send humans, because Artemis 1 was unmanned. Now we're going to send humans to make sure humans in craft can do everything also correct. And then I think Artemis 3 is the one that's like, yeah, we're going to like land. And then Artemis 4 is going to like start bringing stuff to like actually build and, you know, so on. But we'll have to watch a video to like see what all that is defined.
There's some things that we're doing for Artemis 2. We can talk a little bit about what that mission will look like.
Yes, please.
This is going to be a free return trajectory. And what that means is a mitigation. We are going to essentially set the course when we do the translunar injection burn on day 2 to use physics, the Earth and moon gravity, to make sure that we can return the crew without having to make major course corrections, propulsion burns. This is something that we've experienced before. If you recall in your history, we did that on Apollo 8 and Apollo 13. And so when you look at this map, we go from launch, and then the boosters, of course, which provide about 75% of the thrust that we need in order to be able to get the spacecraft aloft. Once we do that, and of course...
Yeah, one of my commenters was saying that like 80% of the work that goes into getting into space is just getting out of our own atmosphere. That's like where most of the work happens. Once you're like in space, it's fairly easy, I guess, to like move around. But getting from the surface of Earth, overcoming gravity and the density of the air in the atmosphere, those are like the biggest things, the biggest factors in getting to space. And those are the hardest ones to overcome. So like all the fuel, that's why all the fuel tanks can separate basically once the thing is in orbit, because just getting to orbit is like the hardest part of the whole thing.
course, the RS-25 engines burn. Then we're going to jettison the boosters, as well as the launch abort systems.
Yep.
Once we get through main engine cutoff, then we're going to do an apogee raise burn and a apogee raise maneuver and a perigee raise burn.
Apogee and perigee are two words I've just learned this week in watching these kind of videos. So I guess apogee is the farthest point away you can be from the Earth while you're in an Earth orbit. So it doesn't uniformly circle the Earth in a perfect circle with a uniform distance all the way around. It's a little bit of an ellipse, as you can kind of see from this graph. So the apogee is when it's at its farthest point away from the Earth's surface in that orbit, and the perigee is when it's its closest point to the Earth when it's in its orbit.
And then we're going to demonstrate a rendezvous proximity operations demonstration, and I think my colleagues are going to talk a little bit about that. That's going to be critical to ensure that we can control two bodies in close proximity to one another as we prepare to do something similar on Artemis 3 when we get ready to move the crew from the SLS Orion into our landing system in preparation for landing.
Oh. Okay. That's news to me. I didn't know that the Orion, which is the capsule they're all in, I didn't know that was going to be moved out of. I guess I just assumed it would be the same as all the missions up until this point, which is like they're on Earth. They step into the capsule. The capsule goes to the moon. It lands on the moon. They step out of the capsule. They step back into the capsule. They come back home in the capsule. So I guess what she's saying is they're going to be on Earth. They're going to step into the capsule. Then they're going to go to the space in the capsule. Then they're going to transfer to some other capsule, a landing capsule. Then they're going to land, get off, get back on, and then go back up into space, transfer back to the Orion, and then come for a controlled burn. That's a very interesting system. I wonder why they chose to do that. Maybe it's more specialized, right? Like if you design the Orion to be able to break out of the Earth's atmosphere and then heat shield, come back into the Earth's atmosphere, then that's all it has to do. It doesn't also have to land on the moon and come back from the moon. And then you can design a whole separate system and specialize it just towards transferring in space, landing on the moon, taking off from the moon, transferring in space, repeat. I guess that makes sense. It's really interesting. The Artemis program in general is very different from the Apollo program in many ways. And most of those ways relate to like how they've chosen to do things in new ways. And a lot of that is like pre-staging things, post-staging things. Like the whole moon base plan, if I'm not mistaken, kind of hinges on international cooperation and other space agencies that are not NASA setting things up first so that when NASA gets there, things are already in place for them to do X, Y, Z, the things they want to do. So it's a much more collaborative approach to space than it was in the 60s, which is great to see. I love seeing like all of human effort collaborate into one thing and like be able to make achievements like in one area just because we're all working together. I wish that happened more. I don't think it ever will happen more, but for the time being, it's happening in space, and I guess we can be happy for that.
And then after we dispose of the upper stage, the ICPS, we're going to do some checkouts of some of our life support systems in HEO, or high Earth orbit. And then we commit to translunar injection. We then make our path out to the moon, around the moon, and then a return back home. Once we get to the entry interface, once we hit the atmosphere, Then all that's left to do is splash down and to safely recover our crew. Our
Cool.
job is not only to launch this crew, but to make sure that we return our friends home safely.
Yep.
So there's a couple other things I want to talk about. I'd like to talk about the mission management team. The mission management team will be activated about 2 days before the launch. Now, the mission management team is responsible for the overall risk management and critical decisions at key points during the mission.
Okay.
And that team is going to be made up of senior leaders and technical experts who understand the risk that we have been mitigating and thinking through, and some accepting as we lead up to the mission, and then be able to support that and lead that during the mission. But the real-time decision-making, a lot of that will be handled by my launch and flight and return recovery colleagues sitting next to me, and they'll be talking a little bit more about their jobs during this mission. We'll start at Kennedy Space Center, and then we will transition here to Johnson Space Center after the proximity operations demonstration on launch day 1. And then from then on, we'll meet daily, or they'll meet daily until the crew is safely returned.
Okay.
And so one more question that I often get asked is,
Why would they launch from Kennedy and then base all of their like actual operations out of Houston and then land off of California? Like, wouldn't it just be easier to do everything in one place? Like, why couldn't they splash down off the coast of Florida? Is there a reason? Why do they splash down off of California? I'd be interested to know that. Is that easier? Is it better? Is the water different in some significant way? And then why do they do all of their, like, I guess, okay, so they've probably always done that, right? Houston, we have a problem. That's probably because they've always based out of Johnson Space Center in Houston, isn't it? I'm only now just catching on to that. That's kind of cool, I guess. Why do they do that, though? Someone tell me.
when will we actually launch? The agency has made a commitment to launch no later than April of 26, and we intend to keep that commitment.
Okay.
We're also, though, working to accelerate as much as we can in terms of the preparations and the operations preparation to potentially as early as February.
Yeah, so I was down there in January, and they had already brought it out to the pad with the anticipation of launching in February. And then something happened, and they scrubbed the mission, and they brought it back into the assembly building for a few weeks, and then they brought it back out onto the pad last week. And I watched a little bit of a live stream of that. We'll see if that video does good. My definition of good so far is about 15 views, which tells you how small of a channel I am. But if that video does well, then I will watch more of that live stream of them bringing it out to the pad. But anyways, that video has not yet hit 15 views, so I will. Anyways, so then they brought it back out to the pad. Now it's still sitting on the pad, and we are at. I'm recording this on the 27th of March. So, just it's less than a week away from the launch window opening. They have an opening on the 1st, which is when I hope they launch, because that's when I'll be there. And then if they scrub it, then they will have the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th that they could launch. And then if they don't launch on any of those days, then they have April 30th as a potential launch date. And I don't know what happens if they don't launch it then. I don't know if it gets bumped to 27 or if, I don't know. I'm not sure what the conditions are that they're measuring necessarily. So I'm not sure what happens if they miss the end of April. But hopefully they won't. Hopefully they'll launch it on the 1st. And everything that happened in February, January will have been a nice shakedown, a nice, prep test, everything like that. And now they can actually launch it on the 1st, and I will get to see it and it will be amazing, and hopefully that happens.
But we want to emphasize that safety is our top priority. And so
Yeah.
as we work through these operational preparations, as we finish stacking the rocket, we're continuing to assess to make sure that we do things in a safe way.
Good.
And once we get through some of those key integration points, once we get ready through some of those test prep activities, we'll be able to fully assess where we are. Now, the process that we go through in order to be able to set that is we understand where our progress is in terms of stacking of the rocket and our ops planning and preparation, our training planning and preparation. And then we take a look at the potential launch periods that are available to us. The launch periods, which is the days, and essentially that falls about monthly days available to us, as well as the windows within those days that are available that are suitable for us to be able to launch. And we take a look at our technical readiness.
The window for the April 1st launch is 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. or something like that. The current schedule that I've most recently seen is about 6:45-ish is what they're aiming for, which means it will still be light out because we're doing daylight savings now, and so it'll be kind of a daytime launch, but it'll still be more dusky than if it was in the morning or something.
We take a look at potential constraints, technical constraints, and we also, of course, take into consideration orbital mechanics, the physics of the Earth relative to the moon, the trajectory that we have prepared and set out for ourselves, and any range constraints, any Earth and space weather. All of these we put together to make an assessment of what is available.
I didn't know there was a space weather. Is that just like meteorites, asteroids? I don't know the difference between those two things. Is one just in space and one is not? There's no wind in space, right? There's no is there moisture in space? I know some planets have evidence of moisture or water, but I don't think there's any like moisture in space. So what is space weather if not just like debris? Is that it? Is that the only factor? Let's see. I'm trying to think through. No wind, no clouds, no rain. Is it just like temperature? I guess temperature is a thing. Is it? But okay, so here's a question: Is I've always had the perception that space is just really cold. Is that true? I thought that it was like always really cold until I was watching this video about the moon rover that a company is building, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and it has to be able to withstand heat on the surface of the moon." And I was like, "Heat on the surface of the moon? I didn't know the surface of the moon had any heat." So now I'm like, well, maybe space isn't all cold. Maybe because the sun still exists, maybe like if you're on some sort of surface of a thing, you can still heat up like you do on Earth. I don't know. I don't know how space weather works.
Available to us to be able to execute on this mission. And as we get closer, we're narrowing that down, and we'll be ready to talk about that very soon. And so I'll just conclude by saying that we're making preparations, and when we are ready to safely launch, we are going to accelerate as much as we can to do so. We'll be able to execute this mission, and it is our plan and our desire to be able to bring our crew safely home.
Cool.
With that, I'll turn it over. I think I lost the mic. With that, I'll turn it over to Charlie Blackwell Thompson.
Thank you, Lakeisha. And thanks for everyone who's joining us today, either here in the room or online. I'm going to talk about our preparations at the Kennedy Space Center for this SLS rocket and the Orion spacecraft.
So I learned that SLS stands for Space Launch System. So a lot of people, when I was first starting this channel, I knew Artemis 2, but people were like, yeah, the SLS. And I'm like, I don't know what SLS is. To my knowledge, SLS is a Mercedes, not a rocket ship. But I guess it stands for Space Launch System.
We prepare for Artemis 2. And as Lakeisha said, this is a very exciting time for us. Orion is in its final preparations in what we call our offline processing. It is currently in the launch abort facility, launch abort system facility, or the LASAP as we call it back at Kennedy.
LASAP.
And it is finishing up its processing there. We expect that to complete in about a week or so.
Okay.
And then it'll be headed over to the Vehicle Assembly Building, or the VAB. The
That's a
SLS
very narrow
rocket,
room.
is pretty much stacked and ready to go. Its test campaign is behind it. We are finishing up some of our closeouts and some of our other work, but most of our work there on SLS is behind us, which is a wonderful milestone. Later this week, we plan to stack the Orion stage adapter. It does have some payloads on board it that'll be going along for the ride with us, some CubeSats. So we're looking forward to that as well.
CubeSats. I'm going to take a guess at what that means. CubeSats. Let's say it's satellites that are square. CubeSats. So I commented and said that this room is very narrow, but I guess that just makes sense because all the pieces they're building of the rocket ship are inherently going to be taller than they are wide, unless they build them laying down, of course. Then they're just going to be longer than they are tall. But is this in Florida? Is this? I'm unclear. Is this building, this room, is this in Florida? Because it just really wouldn't make sense to me if you're launching it from Florida to like build things other places in the country and have to ship them to Florida. It would just make more sense to me if you just built it all in the same place. But I don't know.
Once Orion is complete over in the LASAP, we'll bring it over to the VAB. It will get mated to the SLS rocket, and we'll begin our test campaign. And as part of that, some of the tests are the same that we did during the Artemis 1 time frame. There's an end-to-end comm test, there's an interface verification test, but we also have some new ones. And those new tests consist of the countdown demonstration test, which is about our crewed flight. If any of you remember or were following back in the shuttle days, we had a similar test that was called TCDT, Terminal Countdown Demonstration Test. That's where we suit up the crew. They come out, we go through our checklist and our countdown. They'll enter the ship, we'll do comm checks, we'll get them strapped in, we'll do comm checks, we'll do the configuration of the crew module, and we'll count down to inside of terminal count before we have a planned stop.
What are the bags under their arms? What are those for? Are they just like fanny packs? They just like hold stuff that they want to keep close to them, but they don't have pockets, so that they keep them in bags under their arms? I'd be curious to know. We should, I've got a running list of all the different kinds of videos I want to look up and watch. And Spacesuits is on there, so I guess maybe we should just hit that video. I was planning on, I'm like, it's really kind of unfortunate when I chose to start this channel. It's like just in time, but not quite enough time, you know? Like I wish I had started this channel, 2 weeks earlier even than what I did, so I could be more caught up on everything that was happening with Artemis before it happened. But I do have a plan, a rough plan of like, here's the kind of topics I can cover while they're in space and still also be keeping tabs on live updates that are coming out. And ultimately, I want this channel to be about everything space, not just NASA, not just NASA's programs, not just American programs, not just, I want to have a full, well-rounded kind of channel with all the different space agencies, things that are happening, and all the different technologies that are developing, and all the different missions, and all the different plans, and all the different aspects, and, all that. But I have to start somewhere, and so getting caught up on current events that I am most likely to be impacted by are the things that I'm going to be doing first. And Artemis 2 is the biggest one because I'm potentially going to hopefully be there to watch it take off. And so I will be the most impacted by the Artemis 2. And I know SpaceX is doing some crazy stuff right now, and they've got a lot of big announcements coming out and all that. But I swear I will get to all that. Once the Artemis 2 launches, I'll take just a little bit of a step back off the content, just because I I don't know. I guess if they're in space, maybe I won't take a step back from the content just because they'll be in space and maybe live updates will be regular enough that I should be making videos about them. But anyways, if you guys want to drop a comment, let me know. Hey, we'd like to see more Artemis stuff. Hey, we'd like to see more Japanese space agency stuff. Hey, we want to see more rocket labs. Hey, we want to see more SpaceX. Just let me know what you're into, and I will kind of take that into consideration when choosing which videos I want to watch.
As part of that, we'll also do an egress demonstration, and that will be what we call a CDDT Part 1. Once that testing is complete, we have some other servicing ops that we'll take care of in the
A lot of stickers on
vehicle
that door.
assembly building. We will go ahead and do our flight termination system test, and we'll start closing out the vehicle compartments as part of our final closeouts of SLS.
Yeah, I want to watch Whoa, look at that SWAT vehicle. That's crazy. Hey, I want to watch a video about these electric whatever transport cars. When I was at the Kennedy Space Center a couple months ago, I saw that they had like buses from the 60s like sitting in the museum of how they used to transport the astronauts. They looked really cool. They were like RVs. They had like tons of space, and like these are just like small SUVs. They don't even look that comfortable, to be honest, but we'll have to watch a video about them so I know more about them.
And when all of that is done, we'll get ready to roll out from the
so it's like a dress
VAB
rehearsal
to the pad. And you can see some.
Is that it? That must be the Artemis 1. Yes, okay, sorry. That will have been the Artemis 1. Because this recording that I'm watching was from September, and it was not out on the pad in September. The biggest reason I knew it wasn't the Artemis 2 is because I saw the Artemis 2 when I was down there in January. And the Artemis 2 has America 250 banners on the side boosters there. And it stands out a lot more than having just the kind of the black and white, because the America 250, it's for the 250th anniversary of America. If you don't know, if you're not from the U.S. and you're not familiar with what that is, but everything that's happening this year is like being labeled America 250, not just in NASA, but like in sports and in celebrity things and in movies and in pretty much everything happening this year in America has some little America 250 banner somewhere on it. But anyways, so I saw that the America 250 banner was on the Artemis 2 when I went and saw it, and it's got red and blue on it, because red, white, and blue. And so it's very noticeable when you see it, and it, for future generations, they'll be able to instantly tell what the Artemis 2 was, because it's the only one that'll have the America 250 banner on it.
Some imagery here from rollout from Artemis 1. It is truly a beautiful sight when that vehicle begins to make its way across the threshold of the VAB and along that 4-mile journey to the pad.
Yeah, I didn't realize, let me go back here. I didn't realize until the other day, I was watching a different video, that it goes uphill like that. And it doesn't look steep here, but like from the ground point of view, it looks quite a bit of a climb to get up to the pad. I didn't realize, like, why wouldn't they just build it flat? Is it because the water table in Florida is so high? Like, it's because this is right below the Everglades, which the Everglades, or right up below, right above, right next to? Maybe it's right above the Everglades. But the Everglades is basically like the whole bottom third of Florida is just like swamps. That's what the Everglades is. It's just like marshland, because there's so much water. Like, you can't build anything into it, hardly, because you just have to build stuff on top of it. Which is even what they did with Walt Disney World. If you don't know, down in Orlando, they didn't dig down into the ground and build stuff. They actually built the underground portion of the park on ground level, and then built everything above that as street level for the Magic Kingdom. Very interesting there. But anyways, so I guess because of how heavy it is, it looks like it's just a massive slab of concrete, basically. I know there's probably stuff in there, but so my guess is they have to build it up on a slope just because of the water table in Florida being so high that they couldn't build like flat.
To the VAB and along that 4-mile journey to the pad.
4 miles.
Once we get to the launch pad, we will make the connections between the mobile launcher and the pad. We have a little bit of testing that we will do out there as well. We have some comm testing that we'll do in the RF environment. We
Sure.
have booster servicing to take care of. We have emergency egress system to do the final configuration of. We'll take care of that right after getting to the pad. We'll have the crew come out for what we call part 2 of CDDT, and that is where we'll walk down that emergency egress system and go over the events of egress in the event that we have to perform one of those on launch day.
Okay.
After that, we're off to wet dress. Wet dress rehearsal will be a full tanking of the vehicle, core stage and upper stage. We will get into a terminal count, and again, we will count down inside a terminal count to about the 29-second point, and then we will terminate that test. We'll go review the data, and a few days later, we'll get into launch countdown. Our countdown is 2 days long, very similar to
Wow.
what we had for Artemis 1. We do have a couple of changes, though, because we have a crew this time around. So after tanking, we have a new built-in hold that we will use just prior to sending the crew to the pad. We will send them out, get them strapped in, again, comm checks, and get the crew module configured, and we'll count down to our final planned hold point, which is at T-minus 10 minutes. Very similar to what we did during Artemis 1, we'll do our final readiness checks, make sure all of the work is complete, that we are tracking no constraints, and at that time, we will give the go to pick up the count at T-minus 10 minutes, which again is our last planned hold point, and we'll count down through terminal count.
You know what would be really cool? I don't know if this is legal or allowable. It would be really cool to watch it from a boat out on the ocean. I don't know if I realized how close to the ocean it was. That's pretty darn close. And I mean, so when I watched the Falcon 9 take off from land, I was 13 miles away. And you might think to yourself, wow, 13 miles, you must not have seen much. You'd be wrong. It's crazy how much you can see from 13 miles. It was a night launch. It was at like 11:45 at night. And the whole sky lit up, which was crazy. And you could hear it, not only hear it with your ears, but like you could feel it in your chest. It was crazy. I was like, imagine how epic this would be closer than 13 miles away. But there's not really a closer you can get than 13 miles away on land, unless you're at the Kennedy Space Center. You can do that. They sell tickets to launches, but they sell tickets to some launches. I don't think they sell tickets to all the different SpaceX launches, but they do for like Artemis. You could buy tickets, and that's only like 5 miles away, or maybe even 4 miles away, which would be crazy awesome. But those tickets are long sold out, as you could imagine. But I wonder if I could like charter a boat and like be out on the ocean and watch it. I wonder how close you could get to it that way in mileage. That might be something I should look into, actually.
The launch abort system, or the LAS, will become available to us at 5 minutes 25 seconds. And then we'll count down through our terminal count. Again, we'll be terminating the propellant to the vehicle, pressurizing flight tanks, transitioning from ground power over to onboard power, and then transitioning the software.
See how bright it is?
From the ground
It's crazy.
over to the flight. And
Yeah. Cameras cannot even catch. Like, camera sensors so overwhelmed. I mean, look at the shadows of like the stuff in the foreground on the trees and everything. Like, it's too bright to capture. You can like your eyes adjust, and when you're there, you can like I don't know about a launch this big. For the Falcon 9, you can see the craft all the way through as it goes up, but like cameras do no justice. You just can't see. I don't know of a camera system that exists that would be able to capture it like in this stage, because that's just what it looks like. It's as bright as our camera could possibly convey it to be.
We'll get down into that inside of 31 seconds, and we'll count down. We'll get the GLS.
Even the look at the jet stream, or I don't know what it's called if it's fuel, but like the fire, it's just white pixels. But when you're watching it, it's not just white. It's like all these different colors of like burn happening. It's really kind of pretty.
Go for core stage engine start right around 10 seconds, just like Artemis 1. We'll begin that stagger start of the engines, and then we'll have booster ignition and liftoff. And at that point in time, our launch control team will hand over control of the vehicle to the flight control team. And just like that, I'm going to do it here today as I hand off to Judd Freeling, our Ascent Flight Director.
Thanks, Charlie. So, of course, we at the Mission Control Center will be following along the pre-launch with Charlie through the RF link of the Kennedy Uplink ground station. And we can probably still start the video. I got an animation to show you what it's going to look like when we lift off. So that 8.8 million pounds of thrust is going to start to propel the crew upwards towards our mission objective. There you can see. We'll clear the tower probably about 10 seconds
This is an
after
animation.
liftoff. And then we'll start a roll maneuver that will get the crews a heads down position, and then pitch down so that we can start developing some horizontal velocity. And you can see from this shot gives you a good wide angle from what that trajectory is going to look like. So
I hope they give us this shot. Like, get a specialized like Hollywood drone. Get a mile and a half away and just send it straight up in the sky and give us this static shot of this thing lifting off into space. That would be one of the most epic shots. Every shot that anyone does of these rockets, it's always all really zoomed in. It's always moving, like it's moving with the rocket. I want to see this shot. A still shot, no movement other than the rocket, and just high up in the sky, giving us the full trajectory path of the thing. That would be such an amazing shot. I hope they do this. I hope someone can do this shot.
About a minute in, or we get to our supersonic, so Mach 1. A little shortly after, we get to our max Q. There at about 150,000 feet, the solid rocket boosters separate from the stack. We continue on.
The solid rocket boosters, where do they go? Are they high enough in the atmosphere that they just kind of float off into space? Or do they re-enter and just completely burn up?
Upwards. Then about a little over 3 minutes, the SM panels jettison, revealing the solar rays. And then about 6 seconds later, the last jettisons. That's the launch abort system. So we continue on past, get to a MECO, so main engine.
MECO, main engine cutoff. But the launch abort system, we should watch a video on that. I don't know how the system functions. From what it looks like it's just got 4 powerful jets on it. If it's uncoupled from the Orion, it will just shoot off into space like that animation just showed it doing. But I would imagine if it's coupled to the Orion and those are all ignited, it will pull the whole top module off, and the whole what is it, ICPS will separate from that core booster there and get as far away from it as possible. That's my guess, because that's the biggest hazard, is full of fuel. So if you need to abort, then you need to get the top crew part as far away from the fuel source as possible, is my guess on how it works. But we should watch a video on it and see how it actually works.
In cutoff, and the core stage separates from the upper stage and the Orion space cable. There you see a good shot from inside the core stage. By that time at MECO, we're at a 15 by 1,200 nautical mile orbit. With just the upper stage in Orion, we will do a few maneuvers, including extending the nozzle on RL-10 engine, as well as you can see the solar arrays deploying at that point. That's about 20 minutes into the mission. We'll continue on past that, and as that we're doing those activities, Christine and Jeremy will be getting out of their, they're setting up the toilet and the water dispenser. As well as the last shot you saw there was doing the upper stage perigee raise maneuver.
Okay, so this seems to show that the solid rocket boosters splash down into the ocean. So that's really cool. And the core also splashes down in the ocean. I didn't realize that. I thought those kind of just stayed put. But so how much control do they have over where those things splash down, if any? Do they recover those ever, or do they know they fell into the ocean somewhere and now they're just somewhere? Like, it seems like it would be a hazard. I know the ocean is massive, right? It's the biggest portion of this planet is ocean. But like, it seems like with all the international shipping and things that happens, like it would be some sort of hazard. You just have spaceship parts falling from the sky, especially like massive, large spaceship parts. Maybe it's still a bit of a needle in a haystack kind of comparison, but I don't know. It just seems like you wouldn't want to be anywhere off the coast there. So maybe I don't want to watch the launch from a boat on that side, and then get slammed in the head with a launch booster core. But anyways, yeah, we should watch some videos on that as well. Yeah, it's a pretty concise timeline, it looks like.
That'll get us to a 100 by 1,200 nautical mile orbit, after which we'll be in a safe orbit. This chart shows you, we're now on the right side of that chart a little bit. After that perigee raise maneuver, Christine and Jeremy will be getting out of their orange survival suits. And then we'll be doing...
I had asked a question in an earlier video, were the orange suits different than the white suits or the blue suits? I guess they are. I guess the orange is a survival suit, and I don't know what that means or why. I would guess it has something to do with compression for G-forces, and probably has also fire suit capabilities. But I kind of would have thought that the main suits would have fire suit capabilities, but maybe they've learned they don't, or there's no scenario in which they could survive if there was a fire. So they just have a fire suit, compression suit hybrid, which is a survival suit, and then the space suit is just for space. I don't know. That's all guessing, but I guess we'll look it up. But that's a cool distinction to know. It's called a survival suit.
Several activities up until the apogee raise maneuver. And so the apogee raise maneuver is also performed by the upper stage. That'll get us to a 0 by 38,000 nautical mile orbit. That'll set us up for our ProxOps demonstration. At that time, after ARB, Victor and Reed will be getting out of their orange survival suits, and Christine and Jeremy will be setting up the camera for the ProxOps demonstration, so they have a good view out the docking hatch. At that time, we will then separate the ICPS from the Orion spacecraft, and that's when I hand over to our lead flight director, Jeff Radigan, for him to do the ProxOps demonstration. So, Jeff?
All right. Thanks, Judd.
Cool. I think I'm going to end this video here. We'll do a part 1, part 2 thing. I wasn't planning on doing that initially, but we're already at 50 minutes. And if we're being honest, I know I have less than 15 viewers on average. And YouTube is telling me that most people don't stick around past 3 minutes. So it kind of feels like a waste of time for me even to do anything past like 10 minutes. But I am genuinely interested. I'm going to watch all this on my own anyways. I might as well record and react. So it's really no skin off my back since I'm already planning on watching all of this myself. But if you're still here, thank you very much for sticking around. I appreciate that. And if you wouldn't mind dropping me a comment just to let me know you made it to the end of the video, it will give me hope that I'm not doing this all in vain. So anyways, we will end it here. We will pick up here in the next video, and then we'll go from there and see what else NASA has for us until the Artemis decides to launch. So anyways, thank you. I appreciate you guys, and have a good day on Earth.